Hi and welcome to this tutorial video. This is going to be one of many that I'm going to do in the coming months and years, hopefully. If you want to follow along with this, I've included a link to this mesh for you in the description below. So if you go down below, click on the link, you'll download a zip file, unzip it, and then you'll see the FBX file for this mesh. And you can then bring it into Substance and follow along basically, and you'll see how to paint this like the image at the very start. That's our goal, that's what it's going to end up like. It's going to be spread across 3 videos and I'm going to release one a week, probably on a Saturday or a Sunday depending on how busy I am in my day job. The first video we're going to paint up the body of this canister. It's going to be old and decrepit. I'll show you some reference images that I got for this in a moment. And the second video we're going to put logos on it, numbers on it, and sort of extra layer of detail. And in the third video we're going to break up the handle here and the lid. And the reason why I've done the third one like that is because there's several different types of material going on here, and I'm going to show you how to include that in one map. Because if you look over here in the texture set list, I have 2 different texture sets, one for the handle, so if I turn it off you can see it all disappears, and one for the body, the main body itself. So that's why I've split them up like that, and over 3 videos you should be able to learn how to texture this milk canister in a very successful way. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe and press that ding button, and that will let you know when I upload the next video. So go ahead, pause it here if you want to download the mesh, and then you can just follow along with me. Some of it's going to be sped up, so if you see that, just pause it and do what I'm doing in the video, because otherwise we could be here forever. But you know, I've time-lapsed chunks of it just to speed things along. So all you have to do is pause it, do your part, and then carry on watching. Okay, so here's my reference material for this, for the object. I've got these images of Pixabay, which is a free image website, so I'm perfectly allowed to use these free of charge. Don't need any credit or anything, and that's the good thing about Pixabay. So if you're ever looking for free imagery, go there first. So you can see here these old canisters, they look pretty cool. This is the one I'm going for, this kind of look, this really old battered look. So we're going to aim for, it's not going to be red, or you can make yours red if you wish, and I'll show you, I'm going to show you how to do that, but mine's going to be like a green color. So, and you can see there's different sort of styles depending on how old they were. This is a very modern, clean looking one, I guess, based on the old style, but you see they've got all these dents in, they've really lived a life, and you can see numbers painted on here and logos embedded, and we're going to do all of this. Yes, so you can see a big dent in that. You can really see they've lived a life, they've got some personality, and you know, it's the detail that makes these things come alive basically. And you can't, one of the things I'm going to talk about as we go along is the procedural method. You can't really get this kind of detail just by procedurally dumping maps onto the mesh. You have to learn the craft, and you have to, you know, you have to paint. You have to put your own personal stamp on it. You have to tell its history through the visuals, and it makes a big difference in my opinion. There's another one you can see. All these scratch marks and splashes tell me that it's sort of been through the walls a little bit. You know, it's obviously been in and out of other containers, scratched along the sides here as it goes. And these down here are not really references to the actual object, but they're references to this kind of embossed lettering that I'm going to include on this canister and AEG. You can see there, I really like this typewriter as well, and I might actually model that and texture that up as a different object, so watch out for that. And Renault, and you can see this here, this is pretty cool, how the dirt sort of collects in between the letters here and the edges. This is the kind of thing we're after. These are the things we're going to try and achieve with this canister. And by the way, if you not know what this is, this image viewer here is called PureRef. I'll put a link to it in the description below if you don't use it, and it's fantastic for holding all your reference images inside of it, and you can save one file per project. It's pretty straightforward to use, and it sort of floats around on the top. You can move it all around. These images are just massive, and obviously you can scale them in and out, move around within the file, and it's really cool. I really like it. I use it all the time for when I'm working on a project, and they don't lose the resolution. They are the size they are when you drag them in here. You just drag them in and they drop into this file, and you right click out here and save the file as this particular project I've done here, and then I can create a new one for a different project. And within each reference folder I have, I've got a PureRef file basically. So anyway, check it out. It's free, but you can donate to the guys that created it if you want to. It's entirely up to you. So see the link in the description below. Okay, so let's get started with this. Okay, the first thing is bringing it in. If you're not sure how to bring in a model into Substance Painter, you just go to File, go to New, select the mesh after you've downloaded it and unzipped it. Just select it here, leave everything else as it was. You don't need to change anything, and just click OK, and that's it. And it should come in and you should see it like this. Okay, so the other thing is, if you want to see how I've modeled this using splines, it's one of the sections in my course on Udemy. You can hop on over to there and take the course. There's a discount coupon for it in the description below. So, you know, it's just one small section of the entire course where I teach the students how to use splines to create an object. And this is the object that we created using splines, apart from the handle bits, but the main body, the lid and the handle, we use splines to create this. So if you're interested, hop on over and join the course. It's fun, and there's a lot of talented guys over there, so I'll see you there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is bake down our texture sets. Obviously, all I do here is add an ambient occlusion, and I use the mesh itself as the high. Use the low as the high because there is no high. This is the high. I'm just texturing a high resolution mesh here, so it's fine. It's not that high actually. It's probably about 3,500, and for a little pot like that, that's quite a lot. You probably wouldn't use that in the game as it is. You certainly need to optimize it, and then you could use this version to bake the normal onto the lower version. And I've got another video that shows you how to do that, and I'll put a description of what that is here. So we're going to start by putting on a base layer on our main body of this canister, and usually I kind of start with just metal, and then I put a paint layer on, and then I layer and layer and layer it up until I'm really happy with it. But I'm going to use a smart material this time because some of them have already got paint, metal and paint in the actual smart material itself, so it just saves it. It's just a quicker process. And this is the one I used, the yellow one, because it's a bit more industrial, it's a bit more, you know, battered and rusty, but I don't like it the way it is, so I start modifying it. And that's what I was saying before. You know, you can't rely on these. You can't just use these as your texture maps. You have to work at it. The first thing I do is actually change the color of object, because I didn't want it to be yellow. I want it to be a green color. Yep, so that's pretty cool. But the blobs and that are just all too random. The rust is not good. It's not a good look. It's the right idea, which is why I'm going to use it, but it's just not in the right places. It's just, like I say, it's just random. You know, objects, you've got to tell the story of an object. You've got to tell the history of an object through its visuals. You can't, like I say, you can't rely on these smart materials. They're great, you know, procedurally. They're great for a starting base and to, you know, to get you going quickly. But you know, spend some time on it, and you can see now I start to sort of play with the mask generators here to adjust the rust, to adjust those patches. And what I end up doing actually is adding a whole bunch of stuff, tons of it, and then I paint it out because I want a lot of it in certain areas, but none in other areas. Like the main body I want to keep fairly clean of big chunks of rust like that, and I just want it around the bottom and the edges, you know, where it would get hit a lot, so it'd rust, so it'd get dirty and rusty in those points, but not in the main, not on the main body. And in reality these things wouldn't rust anyway, because so you can see it. I've started playing with the values here, and there's a lot of rust on there now. What I do is I add a paint layer into that material, into that smart material, and so I can then start painting it out, painting some of this stuff out. You can see the edges down the bottom of where the lips are, the little lips at the bottom, and at the top it's using the ambient occlusion to put the rust right inside there, which is where it would naturally start, I think, because water would gather in around there and it would just start, it would just sit there and just rust. And yeah, so now I just start painting out some of this rust because it's just way too much. It's just too much. It's too in your face. And I'll speed this up so you don't have to sit here and watch it. It doesn't take very long, it's only a few minutes, but it's, you know, you don't have to want to sit here and look at this, but you'll see what I mean when we get to that point. And the brush I use here, I use the dirt brush. The dirt brushes are pretty cool. All of the dirt brushes are really, gives it a bit more of a rustic feel if you use these dirt brushes. And of course you can adjust them in the brush properties in your material down on the bottom right hand side. So you can make it obviously bigger and smaller, more opaque or less opaque, or transparent. And you can see me here changing the properties of the brush to just to get a better brush for painting this rust out, because I do want some of it to come through, but not all of it. You know, I just want a faint underlying sort of, like, you can sort of see it now, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of on its way out, but not completely. I want the rust to gather around the bottom, more in the dirt. We add a dirt layer later. I mean, I've already done this. I'm talking over the video because I've sped some of this up. And it's difficult. Obviously, it's difficult to talk, you know, if it's time lapsed. So, just adding some back in various places here. So here I make the brush smaller just so I can get around the edge of this canister without removing this sort of like the corner parts or the crevice rust. I want to keep that and keep the edges, but not all over. See, I could use an edge modifier here that will just give me rust on the edges, but I don't want to, because I want to give it my own stamp on this. I want it, you know, I want to change it myself. Sometimes I don't want it on the edge, sometimes I do. You know, you can apply, like I say, you can apply the smart material, but then you can go in and add your own element to it. You don't have to, and you shouldn't rely on the smart material at all, because it, you know, it needs to have its own If everybody did that, all objects would just look the same. That would just be ridiculous. So just give it, you know, it's so easy to paint in Substance. It's just amazing, really. It's one of the best 3D packages to come along in such a long time, and it's kind of changed the games industry, AAA product development for sure, and the speed in which you can create artwork now is sped, has really increased. And there's new tools coming, obviously, which is pretty cool. But you know, it's quite therapeutic to use this package, because you can, once you learn all the layering system and all, you know, its capabilities, it becomes quite a natural sort of therapeutic sort of process, if you like, to paint, you know, to create. And that's what you want to do. Obviously use reference, like I showed you. PureRef is pretty cool to do that, so make sure you've got plenty of reference before you start any of your objects. It's quite an important part of any 3D work. And here I'm just sort of bringing down some of the rust down from the top to make it look like it's sort of dripped down from the top in various places where the rust is in particular. Particularly where these little handle grips go into the metal here, that will, you know, if water had got on that, it would gather around it and dribble down the side, and cause a sort of a stain, or maybe even a rust leak there. And this is how you got to think. It's how it lives in the real world. Where has it been? This one's been outside, so it's, you know, I just assumed it's been outside, and it's got weather on it, and so it's pain. You know, it's got to show that. We've got to show those elements. We've got to show the life that it's led, that it had before, and the life it leads now, being abandoned and left outside. So, hence all the rust and the dirt. You wouldn't want to use this now to drink milk from, put it that way. I've always been told, you know, design is in the detail. That's, you know, when I was working under various people, they always used to say, you know, design is in the detail, detail, and it kind of got drummed into me, really, and that's kind of why I get so sort of entrenched into adding all this little detail, all these little marks, because it does make the object. It gives it a voice, it gives it a personality, and it tells a story. That's what you want. You know, if you're doing any kind of object, if you're doing a character, give him a little scar, give him a birthmark, give him a weird haircut, make him look different, make him, you know, make him stand out, tell a story, give him deep lines. You know, why is he, how old is he, you know, show his age, show where he's been. If he travels the world, he's going to have a nice deep suntan, perhaps. If he's outdoor, if he's an indoor person, like most of us artists, he'd be a bit pasty, perhaps. You know, so what you look like and what these things look like tell us a lot about what's happened to them and where they've been. And here on top, I'm just painting around the rim because I don't want it covered up so much like that. It's just a little bit of a, you know, around the edges. I want the rust, and all that inside that can go. We don't want it to be rusty on the inside. Not that we're going to see it anyway, but you know, it's just distracting and it looks ugly. And for your information, I use a screen tablet for all my ZBrush and my artwork, pretty much most of it. Apart from modelling in Max, I use my mouse, but for this I use my Wacom. It's a Wacom. It's quite an old one. It's quite big, and it's really, really, really heavy. And I'm not joking. It needs two of us to lift it. It's one of those really old ones with a big, weighty stand, but it still works. It's still brilliant. It's obviously HD and it's got a great screen on it. But I think today's ones, I might upgrade it at some point. If I do, I'll do an unboxing of that and show you the process. But it's It's huge, yeah, but it's fantastic. Cost a lot of money, works brilliantly, and still happy with it. Really, it's just I can't move it around. I can't take it places because it's just so heavy. It's just up on my desk, and that's where it's been since I bought it, which is a bit of a shame, purely because of the weight. I remember the day it was delivered, the postman was like, "What on earth have you got in there?" He had to come and get me so that I could help him unload it from his truck. That's how heavy it was. I'll put the model number up on the screen just for your reference, but you'll see it's pretty heavy. Just some last minute cleanups here, just tinkering. So that's my base layer pretty much. So that's my very initial base layer, and we're going to add some additional detail to this. Okay, that's it for now. I didn't want this video to go on too long. 20 minutes is probably a little bit long, but I'll leave it there now. Very early stages. Like I said before, the next video we're going to add a whole layer of detail. We're going to add some logos and some print and some decals onto this, and that'll be coming shortly. So please subscribe and press that bell button, and you'll get reminded when I upload a new video, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.